Welcome to Extreme Genes, brought to you by The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And welcome, Genies, to America's family history show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And this episode is brought to you by BYU TV's Relative Race. Boy, we're coming up on day 8 in the race, and we'll have more about that a little later on in the show. But I got to tell you, we've got some great guests coming up today. We're going to talk to a 95-year-old World War II Marine. Yeah, there are not many of these around, and even fewer in the category of a female U.S. Marine from World War II. I'm very honored to be talking to Bobby Briggs coming up in about 10 minutes, chatting about her experience back during the war, her parents' reaction to her signing up for the Marines. It'll be fascinating stuff. And then my favorite thing, ordinary people with extraordinary finds. Zoe Kranick is going to be on the line talking about an amazing breakthrough she made by setting a little cousin bait, and you're going to hear what that was all about coming up a little later on in the show. Hey, by the way, if you haven't signed up for our weekly Genie newsletter yet, you're missing a lot. We've got links to previous shows, we've got links to current stories, and of course a blog from me every week as well. Absolutely free. We'd love to have you as part of that. But right now, let us head out to the land of champions, the land where the Red Sox reign once again as champions of baseball for the fourth time in 14 years, to the great pride of David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. Hello, David.
I am just on cloud nine to be able to see my Red Sox win 4 in my lifetime.
I know.
When my dad lived 74 years and never saw them win once.
Never once. I know.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot to tell him when you get to the other side.
I know. And he's going to say, yeah, I should have just stuck around a little longer.
Yeah, I know. It's a great time for Boston sports, no doubt about it. Well, let's get on with our family histoire news today, and we got a lot to cover. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with when DNA tests reveal your child is not your biological child. This has led to quite a few divorces. So think a DNA test, you're going to check out your roots, and all of a sudden your kid doesn't match you on a test?
Yeah, It has happened before, and this article, it's on our homepage at extremegenes.com. You can read about the trouble that causes, and not only for the husband who has been raising somebody else's child, but for the soon-to-be ex-wife and for the child, him or herself. There's all kinds of information there, and it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough, and you ought to read about that. That's a great one.
Yeah, it's a really good read, and it really does make you think and make some people apprehensive about testing. My next story has to do with the opposite end of life. When someone has died, you may have the ashes for them to deal with. Well, people, as we've heard on our show, have found ashes that have been lost for years and had them spread. Some people have even spread it on their meal, as we heard from that person in England. That still gets me every time. But how about if you go to Disney World or Disneyland with your family and you see what looks like powder on the ground? Well, it may not be powdered sugar. It could be powdered grandma.
Yeah.
This is the problem, that people are bringing ashes to Disney World and spreading them. However, there are codes that are read. There's code V for, well, vomit and other things that happen. But when somebody has purposely left a grandma on the ride, there is probably a good chance that they're going to be vacuumed up.
Yeah, it's Code Grandma at Disneyland and Disney World for this. And they're saying the number one place for distributing the ashes of your loved ones, the Haunted Mansion. But of course.
Well, that only seems fitting, especially in the ballroom with all those ghosts dancing around.
Yes.
Well, my next story has to do with some people that were dancing around on board a ship, probably 2,400 years ago. In the Black Sea at 75 feet in depth, they've recently found a shipwreck. This one dates from 400 BC, perhaps of Greek origin, but fish, it's still intact.
Yeah, it's a trading vessel, and it's got all the parts, right?
It does. The rudder, the rowing benches are all there. The mast is still upright. It's like it just sunk maybe 10 years ago. Because the water in the Black Sea has lack of oxygen at that depth, it preserves wood.
Isn't that crazy? And when they get that thing out, it's going to be a real problem because it'll hit air and start to disintegrate immediately. So the preservationists have their work cut out for them with this one.
I'd love to see that in a think tank and how they're trying to figure that one out. Next up, let's go 40 miles northwest of Austin, Texas. These 15,500-year-old chert arrowheads have been found in a site that predates the Clovis period, which has been thought to be one of the earliest eras of Paleo-Indians. So just when we thought that things got a little old with that boat, how about something that's 6 times that amount?
Wow.
It's
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. We're 15,000 years old and weapons down. Well, of course, they've always had weapons in Texas, haven't they?
They really have. These ones you don't have to declare when you walk into a bar.
Right.
Well, I'd like to wish a happy 100th birthday to a baseball player. This one isn't on the Red Sox, but with the Philadelphia Athletics, now the Oakland A's, Fred Caligari has just turned 100 years old. He played baseball pre-World War II, and he is now the 20th former major leaguer to reach the milestone 100-year mark.
Wow, that's impressive. And he would have played then under Connie Mack, right?
Right, that would have been his manager. And Connie Mack, of course, was born in 1862, so there's some pretty good history right there. Guy born during the Civil War.
Right.
Managing somebody who's playing during World War II.
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
My blogger spotlight this week shines on ifamilyhistory.blogspot.com. And on iFamilyHistory, you can learn about the different technical aspects of doing your family history and how to share it, which is kind of a blogger's blog support.
Yeah, right?
The real mystery of the iFamily History is I don't know who it is. So if you know who I is, not me, but them, please let me know.
You're really confusing me. Okay, ifamilyhistory.blogspot.com, but we don't know who the person is.
There we go.
All right, very good, David. Thanks so much. And coming up next, I'm going to talk to 95-year-old U.S. Marine from World War II, Bobby Briggs. She has a lot to tell you. I am just delighted to be having a conversation right now with Bobby Briggs. She served as a Marine in World War II. She is 95 years old, living in Illinois. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Boy, you have quite the story. How did you wind up in the Marines in World War II?
Well, after I got out of high school and a year of business school, I went to Rockford, Illinois to live. I was raised near Fort Dodge, Iowa, Webster County. And I had a girlfriend that wanted to go to California. So I quit my job and got back to Iowa, and she started talking about the Marine Corps. And come Christmas time, she got a diamond from her boyfriend, then she didn't want to go to California. So I started thinking about the Marine Corps and decided it was a good idea, since one of my classmates was in the Marines and others were in service. And I got to thinking if I could help anybody by serving here, it would make it, if I could make it any better for them, then that's what I wanted to do.
Wow. So you went to a Marine recruiting office? Is that how it worked?
I went to Des Moines, Iowa, to the recruiting office and came home feeling pretty smug that they accepted me right away. And after a series of tests, the lady came out and said, I shouldn't tell you this, but you have the highest mechanical aptitude I've had come through here. And having lived on a farm, if my dad sent me for a monkey wrench, I'd better come back with a monkey wrench.
Right.
And not a hammer,
Sure. Makes sense.
So that's my story. I went to boot camp in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, was sent to aviation machinist mate school at a Navy base in Norman, Oklahoma, and wound up at El Toro Marine Air Base at Santa Ana, California.
Wow. So what year was this that you signed up, and then when did you serve from?
Well, I graduated from high school in 41, and it was 44 before I actually got into the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Between getting married in 46 and the war being over, got kicked out in 46.
Got kicked out?
Well, they let you go. They
let you
loose.
go. That's right. Well, Semper Fi to you, Bobby. That's an amazing story. So you served stateside through that time.
We were, as women, we were not allowed to go overseas, except people who did office work. They could get to Hawaii.
Okay. That's about as far as they could go. Did you find this work during the war interesting?
Oh, yes. In the meantime, I was having a good time.
Yeah. Well, now, you weren't surrounded just by women, I'm assuming, at that time.
Oh, no. When you were in boot camp, you were not allowed to talk to a man,
Really?
except your drill instructor, and then you had to ask permission to speak to him, and then your question had to be about drilling.
Okay. And was the drilling any different than it was for the guys?
No, not at all.
So what was that like?
Well, you learn to stay in step, and there was all kinds of different procedures you had to do, but they were easy as long as you listened to what they told you.
Sure.
I have to tell you an incident. The first Sunday we were in boot camp, we were marched to chapel. We came out of chapel, and I was the first one out for some reason, standing on the curb waiting for the platoon to assemble. Across the street were two sailors yelling, "Bobby, Bobby, Bobby." One of them was one of my classmates. There were only 7 boys in my high school class, and it was one of them 1,000 miles from home.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine?
No, that's just
What the
incredible.
odds
What were the odds?
He was in the Navy as
Okay.
a medic, but people don't realize that the Marine Corps did not have medics. They were taken care of by the Navy medics.
And so you weren't married at this point. You were, what, 19 or 20, somewhere in there?
I guess so.
What did your parents think about you being a Marine?
Oh, my dad was all in favor of it.
Really?
Oh, yeah, he was an adventurer. He was tied to the farm, but he would have been off doing some crazy thing if he'd had the chance.
Was he a World War I vet himself?
No, he was excused because he was a farmer and he had a year-old son.
I see. Yeah, and that was the
And
case for a lot of those people back then. That's right,
Yeah.
if they had a family.
Yeah, I was the youngest of 3. I had an older brother and an older sister.
And were they both in the war as well?
No, my brother tried to enlist 2 or 3 times, but they told him he had a heart murmur, and they wouldn't take him.
Did that bother him that you got accepted and he didn't?
I don't think so.
Well, how did that whole experience affect your life moving forward from the 40s?
Well, I met and married my husband in the Marine Corps, and he was a native of Lake Forest, Illinois, and we, after been married for a few months, we finally got an apartment to live in on a 3rd floor, the 2 busiest streets in Lake Forest. Had 3 little boys, and you can imagine this farm girl was trapped.
Yeah, I bet. Now, did your husband serve in combat overseas?
Yes, he did. He was in the Quartermaster Corps, but he was in a lot of the islands over in the South Pacific.
Yeah, the Pacific Theater. It just had to be
Yeah.
a brutal thing. But you had that in common. I mean, the Marines had to really bring you together because you shared the same military culture, right?
Right.
So I can only imagine you're probably the last left of your platoon, are you not?
I don't have any idea. I mean, they'd have to be as old as I am. The 2 or 3 that I kept in track of are long gone.
Have long passed away. Wow.
Yeah.
And so what do you do now, Bobby? Because you're obviously very active still and out living your life and enjoying things.
Well, basically, I spend my time doing family genealogy.
That's awesome. How long have you been doing that? You're probably the oldest genie I've actually had on the show.
Well, I don't remember dates accordingly, but it's probably 30, 35 years that I've been rummaging through the records. My husband's parents were the immigrants, and I got hooked on working on their lines, and I am back to about 1,500 on one of them.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, have you embraced DNA yet?
Yes and no. I've had my own DNA done, and I had my brothers, my sons, and my cousin on my mother's side. And I am computer illiterate, and I get all these messages saying that they've found a match for me and and I have never figured out how to open those messages. I did at the very beginning, but then they improved it, and I haven't been able to do it, so...
It's been a little bit of a challenge. Well, I'm sure there's some folks locally there who can help you with that if you choose to go in that direction. But have you been amazed by the progress you've seen in your life? Some incredible things. Let's see, if I've done my math right, you go back to 1923. So
Right.
you've lived through the Depression. You must have vivid memories of that. What was that experience like for your family growing up?
Well, we lived on a farm, so we had plenty of food. My mother had a huge garden, and she canned and everything like that. We butchered a steer and a hog every year, and so we had our own meat supply. She sold eggs and cream to get the basics, the coffee, the flour, the sugar, and so forth, to the local grocery store. And I remember quite a bit because you're at an impressionable age at 5 to 10 years old. And it was a big deal for us if my mother would spend a penny to buy 2 lollipops for my sister and me.
Oh, wow.
She did not do it every week.
No, no, I don't suppose she did. It's funny you mentioned that. My mother, who was born in 1924, shared with me a story about meeting her grandfather on a trip, and he didn't speak English because he was from Sweden. And so they got ice cream for the kids, which was very rare during the Depression, and she offered a bite to her grandfather, who didn't understand, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah," and he took and ate the whole thing and broke her heart. And she just sat there and goes, "Oh, no, no."
Yeah, well, once in a while we got I can't think of the name of it. It was chocolate ice cream on a stick. And, that was a treat. And another treat was later on when things started to improve, she'd give us 15 cents, 10 cents to get into the movie and nickel for a bag of popcorn. And that was her babysitter while she did the shopping.
Boy, that's got to make it tough to pay $2 for a bag of popcorn at a movie now, right?
I don't go to movies.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So how many children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren?
I had 3 children, 3 boys. I have 4 grandchildren, 2 and 2, and 1 great-granddaughter.
That's awesome. Well, she's
Yeah.
Bobby Briggs. She served in World War II as a Marine. Her husband was a Marine. She's a seasoned genealogist. And, Bobby, we so appreciate you coming on the show and sharing some of your history. That is absolutely remarkable.
One other comment. My maiden name was Black.
Okay.
And, of course, so, that's how I went into the Marine Corps, was as Black rather than as Briggs.
I would imagine that would be true. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bobby, and God bless and good luck. And get a hold of somebody locally there. They should be able to help you sort out your DNA.
Well, I hope so.
You have a great day.
Yeah, if you have any more questions, you know where to find me.
There you go. Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome.
And we like to do a thing now and again we call Ordinary People with Extraordinary Finds. We get their stories, we find out how they did it, and I'm always so appreciative when somebody reaches out to me to share their story with me because they know I'm going to share their excitement. And one of those people is Zoe Kranick. She's out of Burke, Virginia, and she's on the line with me right now. How are you, Zoe?
I'm great, thank you.
How long have you been
How
a
are you?
genie?
Well, pretty much all my life. I mean, I was that little kid who, would ask my mom for family stories, and I knew, all my grandparents' brothers and sisters' names, and I always thought it was really fascinating. But I guess I really ramped up my research maybe a couple years ago when my daughter was born.
Oh, that changes everything, doesn't it? When your family comes along and you realize, oh, I've got things I've got to pass down to this child.
Yes, exactly. That's how I feel.
So give us the background here. You had a great-grandfather who came over from Italy in 1920, but he left behind a lot of folks.
He did. One of his brothers came here with him, but we found out from an obituary, his obituary, that he actually had 4 sisters who survived him, who remained in Italy. And this side of my family, I'd always been really close to, and I'd never heard about these sisters, and immediately I wanted to know who they were and who their families were, and I wanted to know my second cousins and all those people in Italy. And unfortunately, my great-grandparents and my grandfather and his generation had all passed away at this point, and none of the following generations, my mom's or mine, had any information about this.
They didn't know anything about the aunts left behind? They never even heard of this?
No, I mean, all we knew was 4 sisters who remained in Italy. That's all anybody
That was it?
knew.
Wow. Because I was thinking somebody had to know it to put it in the obituary.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, I think it was probably my grandfather's generation because it was in my great-grandfather's obituary. And
Right.
they knew, and some of them had gone to visit family in Italy. But only really a handful of my mom's generation had ever even been there. So,
Sure.
and what they might have known was kind of
That's
lost.
lost.
Gone at that point.
Happens
Yeah.
a lot. So what did you do?
So I had done some research on an Italian record site, and I was hunting for them. The surname is a little uncommon, so I pretty much assumed that any records with this surname were probably in some way related to who these people were. And I found one woman who the birth dates kind of were similar to my great-grandfather's, and I assumed she was one of the siblings, but I couldn't prove it. So trying to get that information was tricky because I felt like I was so close and I just couldn't get there. But around this time, I decided that I wanted to write a genealogy book for the side of my family because we didn't have one and we were, very close. And about half of them were on Facebook. So I thought what better way to get information quickly rather than
Right.
writing letters would be just to tag them all in one Facebook post and talk together about this. I figured early on in the process when I realized I wanted to write a book is I really wanted to not just write dates, birth dates and death dates and that kind of thing. I wanted to write the stories. I wanted to record the stories, that were passed down in my family. I think that it wouldn't be the typical genealogy book, but that's what I wanted.
Oh,
I
absolutely. The stories are the key. That's what makes them live.
Yes, exactly. And I'm interested in what they look like and what they acted like, what their traits were. So that was really important to me. So I figured I would do a series of posts and just ask people, beg them for their stories about my grandfather and his siblings and, if they had any of the great-grandparents, great. But my grandfather was one of 7 children. So what I did was every few days I would release a new post with one of the siblings' names and ask for stories and photos from my family members. I tagged them all in.
Great
And
idea.
make it private. Yeah, it worked out really well. I was afraid they wouldn't respond, but they responded quickly with, these wonderful stories and photos, some I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And I think it really brought us closer together, too. I mean, it was just a wonderful experience.
Well,
I
you
recommend
got to
that.
have a reunion then at some point as a result of this, right?
I would love to. We used to do that every year, but when my grandfather died, his house was where we would have them. And when he died, it kind of, we tried to keep it up, but it just kind of,
Sure.
we stopped doing it. But on one of the posts, I asked for information about the 4 sisters, and one of my cousins had inherited a photo album from her brother, who was one of the only members of the family to visit back in Italy, and he went in the 1970s. But unfortunately, tragically, he passed away a few years after he visited. But he left us this beautiful gift of his memories in this album. His sister posted a few of these photos on Facebook, and the surname of a picture of an older gentleman matched the married surname of the woman who I had found previously on the Italian record site.
Oh, boy.
That I assumed was, so that was kind of confirmation for me, this was one of the sisters. And that same surname showed up again in a photo of these 3 children. The little girl in the photo was named Anna. So again, I took to Facebook because it's worked for me so far, and I looked
right.
her up.
This is how it's done. Exactly.
Yes, Facebook is a wonderful tool. So I found a woman who was the correct age, with the correct name, and living in a part of Italy that I thought would be, matched. So I figured this had to be her. And I knew that if I was able to connect with her, this would solve the mystery. I was so excited. So in March, I sent her the photograph of the 3 children. I messaged her and wrote something like, "Is this you? So I think we're
Right.
related." And I never heard back. So that was really
that was it?
disappointing. Well, meanwhile, I was continuing with my genealogy research, and I came across a blog from one of those distant cousins who had written about a shared ancestor we had, and I thought, that's a great idea. I should have a blog.
Good point.
Because, so around the end of August, I started a blog. I did kind of secretly hope that, like I had found this blog of my distant cousin, that maybe, one day some long-lost relative would stumble upon it and we could connect, and that would be really exciting. So one of my first posts was about the 4 mystery sisters in Italy, and I included the photo of the 3 children and wrote about trying to connect with Anna and my disappointment in not being able to. And I concluded the post with, like, I hope someday she does respond. I think she might be the key to putting this puzzle together.
Right.
And I never assumed that would...
But we never assume anymore, do we?
Who knows? But about a month later, I opened up Facebook, and I saw I had a message. And I clicked into it, and to my surprise and shock, it was from Anna's daughter. And she said her mother was very sorry she didn't respond months ago, but she didn't know who I was. And she said they had found my blog the night before, and she wanted to connect, and she confirmed I was correct about the woman who I suspected was one of the 4 sisters. In fact, she was Anna's grandmother. And she concluded with the line, "We want to help you put the puzzle together."
Wow.
And that was just, yeah.
Did you jump up and down? Did you scream? What did you do?
I had just come in from lunch at my job, and I just walked into the building and was just, reading it before I got to my desk. So I couldn't really have a big reaction like that. I did laugh and cry a little bit, though, like privately to myself.
I think I'd have probably gone out to the car, shut the door, and screamed for a moment, then gone back to work.
I did that internally.
She's Zoe Kranick from Burke, Virginia. Zoe, what a great find. You talk about ordinary people with extraordinary finds from the other side of the world. Only in this era can things like this happen. Great work, Zoe. Thanks so much for sharing it, and we appreciate your coming on.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been wonderful speaking to you.
Love it. This segment is brought to you by FamilySearch.org, Talking Preservation with Tom Perry from TMCPlace.com. He is our preservation authority. Tom, it's been a while since we talked about audio.
Oh, it has. We've had so many things with all the floods and the hurricanes and the earthquakes, how to prepare for them, how to take care of them. And we've totally neglected audio for weeks.
Well, audio is one of those things I think a lot of folks think it's just irretrievable when something isn't the way it used to be. For instance, cassettes, right? You must hear about that all the time.
Oh, yeah. People come in, and in our showroom, we have some tapes that are like major melded damage, all kinds of things. And people go, "Oh, you can fix those?" "Oh, yeah." And I show them the sample of one. Yeah, some little girl put this on the top of a lamp, and it melded. And it was something very important to them. The people had passed on that had made the tape. And they go, "Is there any way you can recover that?" I go, "Yeah, sure." Because the thing you have to understand is a flashpoint of the case, whether it's audio or video, and the tape itself are a lot different. So you can have a case totally melt on you, and the tape is usually still good. Sometimes we might have to go in and repair the tape, which is no big deal. But we surgically take the cassette apart, put it in a brand new shell, and 9 out of 10 times it just plays fine.
Isn't that amazing? But sometimes I know the tape gets caught up inside either the audio or the video cassette case. That's usually a problem for the ordinary person.
Exactly. In fact, preventative maintenance on that is if you find an old tape and you find an old tape recorder, don't put that tape in that old tape recorder. Because even if it's sat for 2 or 3 years, there's gunk that's going to get caught on the pinch rollers, on the heads, all kinds of things. And what will happen, as soon as the tape touches it, it's going to start wrapping around it instead of going back through the other place. Then you pop your cassette open, and you see this tape going every place. If you've already gone too far, don't try and take the tape out and bring it to us. Bring the whole cassette into us, and that way we can probably recover more because we know how to take it apart. So bring the whole thing to us if that happens. But if you have a whole bunch of tapes and you want to listen to them before, you can always have them cleaned. We can clean them. There's probably places in your local area that does repairs. Talk to them and say, "Hey, I've got an old cassette machine. Can you clean the heads?" Most people can do it themselves. It's not hard, and I'm sure there's YouTube videos that show you how to do it. Just make sure that when you do it, you use a good quality isopropyl alcohol. Use ones that are at least 90%. Don't use dollar store types that are 50% because you're adding too much water in there. So go in and clean them with some good Q-tips, and then you can go ahead and run it. But make sure you don't just put it in a machine. You have no idea what the history is because it could ruin your tapes. If you can't do that, look at your tapes and read and see which one is the least important and try that one first.
Boy, that's a great idea. Are cassettes the most common bits of old audio you receive at your store for digitization?
Absolutely. We receive more of those than anything. But then second place is really kind of interesting. The second most one we get are what they call the wire recordings. It looks just like fish line, but it's made out of wire. And the neat thing about it is the wire doesn't degrade like a tape does. And so we have people that bring these in from the turn of the century, and you'd swear the person standing right next to you that's talking because they last forever.
How old is the oldest one you've had in that you've been able to listen to?
I can't actually put a date on them. I mean, I've had stuff that has been like way, way, way old, and I would say, pretty close to turn of the century type stuff. And the strange thing is we've had it on display, and people have come up to us at one of our scanning parties or at a family history conference we went to, and they go, "Oh, we had some of those. We thought they were old fishing line of Grandpa's, and we didn't even know he fished."
Oh, no. And they'd thrown them out.
They had thrown them out. And
what's
those things
the
are priceless.
Quality like on those?
Oh, it's amazing. It's
really?
it's better than audio cassette.
Yeah, I would say it had to be, right? Because it's metal.
Exactly. And so the metal doesn't degrade like a tape would, so it lasts forever and ever and ever. These things will be around way after cassettes have just totally flaked away.
Well, next time you come in, Tom, you're going to have to bring one of these wire recordings, because I've never seen one.
Yep, they're cool. They look just like the old fish line, except they're metal.
Tom, last segment we were talking about the most common audio that you get in for digitization at your store, and that would be cassette tapes. And then you mentioned the second most common thing were old wire recordings, which I've never seen, and how amazing they are and how far back they go. What else do you get? What's the next thing?
Okay, number 3 isn't a big surprise, but it's vinyl records. And when I say vinyl, I'm throwing everything into that batch because it's not just vinyl. We have the old steel records, the aluminum ones. We have all kinds of things. In fact, I remember back when my oldest brother was getting ready to go to boot camp during the Vietnam era, there's a little, almost like a phone booth that you go in, you drop a quarter in, you talk to it, and a record pops out.
Sweet. And then you drop it in the mail. They have a container for you.
Exactly. We have people that were over in the service wherever around the world, and they would send them to their family would send them to them, and thank heavens they preserved them. And so we have a lot of people that bring those in. We even have people bring in the old cereal boxes back, and I think it was during the 60s.
Yes, I remember those.
They'd have like little Christmas songs on the back, whatever, and you'd cut them out, put them on your turntable, and all they were kind of a varnish type stuff on the back of the cardboard, so they didn't last long. They cracked easy, and so they weren't the best in the world. And an interesting thing about that is I've always told people don't throw them away if they're broken or chipped, because one day they'll come out with it because they have the technology of a record player that's a laser. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, about a year ago, they actually came out with one. The only problem is it's for really high-end people because it's like $15,000 for the machine.
Ooh.
And there's no way we can justify it. So hopefully one day, just like anything that's new, in a few years the price will come down, because I would love to have one of these, because every once in a while we get warped records in, or records that are severely scratched or broken. But I've always told people don't throw them away, because one day the technology will be here. It is here now. We just need to wait for the price point to drop or get a winning lottery ticket.
So when you come across an old record, an old piece of vinyl, obviously a personal recording, not a problem for you to copy. But when it comes to a commercial recording, that's a problem. Back to a certain date, I would assume. What date do you go by? We
don't actually go by date. There's a law that's called the Fair Use Act, and it will allow you to take one media and change it to a different form of media, which is called a convenience factor. So if you have an old album, an old Christmas album or something like that you'd like to get transferred to CD, we can do that. But the law requires you cannot sell that CD. You can't give that CD away. You can't give the record away. Legally, you're supposed to keep the record and the CD together at all times. It's more like the law says, it's a convenience factor. I don't want to get out my turntable. I want to listen to a CD. So that's fine as long as you keep the things together. But if you try to copy it or do anything like that, then you're going to run into copyright violations.
All right, that was number 3. We're running out of time. What's number 4?
Number 4 is really strange. It's called wax cylinders. It's called the Edison wax cylinders.
Wow, we're talking way back now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, way back.
Were they voice recordings or commercial ones, or do you get them both?
Yes, we get them all. They're really interesting. The biggest reason we don't get more of those is because since they are wax, if you don't take good care of them, they'll melt, they'll get abrased, they won't work right. But even if those are cracked, we can usually fill them in with a polymer and still transfer them. So that's always an option. And then the weirdest one I would say is you cannot believe the number of 8-track tapes we get in.
Really?
Yeah, and we do 8-track tapes, actually, both directions. We have people that have like a 69 Collector Mustang that want to have new music on their 8-track. So we make them an 8-track out of current music, and it blows the minds of the people at the car shows.
That's great stuff. Thanks so much, Tom. We'll talk to you next week.
My pleasure.
Hey, that's a wrap for our show this week. Thanks so much for joining us. Sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter. You can find that at extremegenes.com. It's absolutely free. We got thousands of followers there for my article each week and all kinds of great links to great stories. Talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family. This has been Extreme Genes. Share your family story by going to FamilySearch.org.